Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us here today. It's nice to see you all. I'm Sandra Grauschap. I'm the Customer Marketing Manager at Loxo, and I'm joined today with Alex Rose, who's a Customer Success Manager in the EMEA region. I'm going to turn it over to Alex now to get us started off.
Thanks, Sandra. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited today to be running through the Loxo Learning session. So today we're going to be discussing finding the hidden 70%, connecting with passive candidates. Just want to share a little bit about myself before we jump into that. So as Sandra said, I'm one of the customer success managers over here at Loxo. But before my time at Loxo, I spent 7 years in recruitment as both an individual contributor and as a manager. And when I was in recruitment, I was actually a Loxo user myself, so I've got good insights into the platform from both sides of the coin. Feel free to fire questions at me at the end or as we go through. Recruiters can spend hours of their day sifting through inbound applications, praying that a hidden gem has applied. That's not really a productive use of time. So today we're going to learn how to find and uncover hidden signals that show a passive candidate is ready for a move or ready to hear about a new opportunity. I know we've got a mix of in-house and agency recruiters with us today. So for the purpose of this, I'll be coming at it from more of an agency view, but everything we do discuss can easily be transferred over to the in-house market as well. So the active applicant blind spot. So we want to control candidate quality. In recruitment, I'm sure you're all aware, there's a lot of stuff that is out of our control. Budgets get pulled, counter offers are made, candidates accept roles that we weren't representing them for. During my time in recruitment, I was always told to control the controllables. And the hard truth of that is if we are only speaking to and trying to hire candidates that are actively applying, we're letting the market dictate the quality of the candidates that we are speaking to. We want to provide the best candidates for our clients. We want to make placements. We want them to pass probation. We don't want to be paying rebates to our customers. So we want to be targeting elite players in their field, and they needed a slightly different approach to just the posting and praying. So elite players, they often rely on their network. They want to know that a role is the right fit for them before they get too invested in it. And if we're only fishing in this small part of the pond, let's say, we may be missing a lot of bigger fish that are swimming around out here in the 70% passive market. So why isn't the best talent applying? I would, ask you to have a little think yourself. Hopefully you're all performing well currently, or you have previously performed well. If you have a little think about that, how often are you checking job boards? How often are you looking for your next opportunity, applying to new roles? I would hazard a guess that it's probably not that much. People that are performing well just don't have the time to search for new jobs, and why would they? They're busy winning, they're hitting quotas, they're shipping code, they're managing teams, and they might feel very content in their position until you offer them a new challenge or a better commission structure, more flexibility, the list goes on. But the fact of the matter is, they may be very content until you dangle that carrot in front of them. So we need to know when to dangle that carrot. There's also what we like to call the black hole. So I know myself from when I've applied for roles in the past, I was dubious about chucking my CV into applications just because I didn't want to be judged on keyword filters, and I know many other candidates also don't want that. So we could have an example where a top performer could be operating as an account manager, but they work in a very small firm. So they might be wearing multiple different hats. Their job title might not actually reflect what they're doing in their day to day. That type of person is going to be quickly filtered out by filters on ATS, and they don't want that. They know this sort of stuff is happening in the background. They want to discuss the role with somebody in person. They want to understand that it is the right fit for them before moving forward and putting their eggs into that basket. So there is a thing called the inbound tax. As I'm sure you're all aware, the job market is still incredibly tough out there for candidates. We've got more candidates applying than ever to roles. It might look good on the surface. You might post a job up and be like, great, I've got 400 candidates that have applied. The reality is that you're going to spend a lot of time sifting through those candidates. You might rule out 395 of them. So you've had to click through 395 CVs just to get 5 people that you actually want to speak to. There's got to be a better use of our time there. And on the flip side of that, we can also get instantly thrown into a bidding war. We can probably hazard a guess that if a candidate's applied to your role, they've applied to multiple other roles. We're instantly in a bidding war on speed, on salary, on bonuses, all of those sort of things. We were talking earlier about controlling the controllables. If we're in a bidding war, we've instantly lost control already. So if we source passive candidates, we can control the narrative. We can assume, obviously not 100% of the time, but we can more often than not assume that they're not in 10 other processes. It just gives us a lot more control over that process, and we can build a better relationship with that candidate as well. So sourcing passive candidates is a massive differentiator. A lot of recruiters don't do that at the moment. They're seeing lots of applicants. They're sat there thinking, there must be a good one in here somewhere. Let me just check these next 5. Let me check these next 5. And there's a lot of time being wasted there. If you have a solid, repeatable, proactive, and targeted plan, you will see the success from your efforts and you will save time in the long run. So there is a bit of a mindset pivot that we need to make here. We want to stop being reactive. We don't want to be filtering applications and hoping that there's a gem in there. We want to start being proactive. We want to find the most qualified talent for our clients. That's what they're paying you for at the end of the day. And the second half of this presentation is going to cover how we uncover those people, so what signals we're looking out for, and then how we approach that passive talent as well. So there are a few different signals that we can look out for that may signal that a candidate is open to hearing about opportunities. There's one thing called the golden window. So if we've got candidates that are sat in a company, they've been there for 2 to 4 years, they may have been smashing it, they may have hit targets, performed well, they may have been learning every day, but eventually they are going to hit a growth ceiling in that company. That growth is going to stagnate. They might still be performing well, so they might not actively be applying, but in the back of their mind, they are primed for a new opportunity should the right one land in front of them. So this is definitely something to look out for. People that have been at companies in that golden window, we want to be reaching out to those candidates. We also want to look for strategy shifts in companies. Over the last few years, I'm sure you've all seen, there's been some pretty major strategy shifts from some big players in the market and from startups as well. Companies that were once aiming for IPOs have been bought by private equity firms. The innovation stops with private equity firms more often than not. They want their profit, jobs are uncertain, the innovation stops, people are less excited about the journey that that company's going on. And then mass layoffs. In the past 24 hours, we've seen Meta is ready to lay off 8,000 people. Intuit QuickBooks is looking to cut 17% of their workforce. So there are still a lot of big changes in the market. And obviously, when you get companies like Meta laying off, you'll be able to look for smaller companies that follow suit. So keep an eye on what your market is doing, who's laying off who, and then even if employees are not directly affected by those layoffs, so their job might be safe, in the back of their mind, they are getting a little bit nervous. A well-timed job opportunity landing on their desk might be a welcome sight to them when all that chaos is going on at their current company. And then the final signal that I wanted to touch on is funding. So an example would be, imagine a candidate has joined a Series B company. They've just had 100 million in funding. Everyone's excited. They're excited about the projects they're going to be working on, excited about the growth of that company. A couple of years pass and they still haven't hit Series C. Candidates they're not oblivious to the fact that Series B will last forever. The cash burn on startups is extremely high. The runway is getting shorter and shorter. So they're feeling less secure in their role compared to when they walked into the company 1 year ago. So again, if you notice there's companies that are maybe stalling on funding, maybe looking like they might not get their next round, we want to be dangling that carrot in front of those candidates before any layoffs or anything like that, because candidates will have that in the back of their mind that their job is becoming more and more unsecure as every day, week passes. So we can lean on tech and insights to gain more information about a candidate to ensure that we're putting an opportunity in front of them at the optimal time. So there's a few things that we want to look out for. One of those would be ghost promotions. If a candidate has been in the same role for a number of years, they may be feeling either undervalued or not challenged at all. So I'm sure you've even been told this in your career or you've been telling your team, but the hard work of finding a candidate, you're putting in a lot of time. Time is money. You may have even spent money uncovering people's contact information. If we're only speaking to that candidate once about a specific role, it might be a role that they weren't interested in. It might be a role that they didn't quite make the cut for. We want to stay in contact with those candidates. We want to make use of that candidate time and time again. We've already put hard work in. Let's keep having discussions with that candidate. So we can do this in a few different ways. So activity filters within Loxo. So you may have a situation where a candidate interviewed for you 2 years ago. They were a great candidate, but they didn't get the job. 2 years have passed. They are now in that golden window we discussed. We want to be able to filter our CRM by who did we have out submitted at first interview 2 years ago. They were great candidates back then. The chances are they're still great candidates now. You've already got an existing relationship, so we can use that to our advantage. So get back in contact with them. And then leveraging existing relationships. So we want to make the most out of every interaction we have. Even if you speak to somebody that's not interested in the role you have, don't be afraid to pivot that conversation. Who else do they know that could be interested? Who else in the space do they know that is really smashing it at the moment? Put those people straight into your database, put them into a nurture campaign, reach out to them. But we need to be doing something with those candidates. And this leads me nicely on to my next slide, which is do not sleep on human intelligence. So, with candidate aftercare or the post-placement audit, we can use candidates that we've successfully placed to uncover information and potential referrals. So, when we're checking in 30 days and then we check in again 2 months later to see how they're getting on with their role, we can then use that opportunity to ask for their help. You've placed them in that role, they like you, you're now a trusted advisor to them. We can ask them questions like who else in their previous team was dissatisfied with their role, who in their last company was a top performer, who should we really be reaching out to. We can even take it as far as who are you still in contact with that you can loop me in with so I can have a conversation with them. These little nuggets of information are invaluable and are going to save you lots of time, but also get you the better quality candidates that aren't already in sort of 5, 10, 15 other processes where you lose full control. And then on the topic of human intelligence, I'm sure you've all been told to do this before and are putting it into practice, but I just wanted to raise this to you. We also want to be making the most out of candidate reference calls. So I know not every recruiter takes references for their customers. But if you are in that position, we can flip this for business development purposes. Um, that can be just for building your network or for finding the best candidates. So we can ask the manager things like, who's the best salesperson you ever worked with? Who in your network should I connect with? They already trust you because you have taken one of their A players from their team. So they know that you're in the same market that they're in. They're going to be more often than not willing to put you in contact with a few other people. And then hopefully further down the line, you can hit them up for business development and get some roles on with them as well. So this moves on to the slide of engaging passive candidates. So we've looked at why top talent stays put. We've looked at how to spot the signs that they might be ready for a change and how to use tech and your own intuition to uncover those signs. Now we want to dive into probably the most crucial part, which is how to build a connection and engage with these candidates. So there's been lots of research and lots of data on when is the best time to reach out to candidates, when are people reading their emails, when are people going to be most receptive to hearing about opportunities. And the data's come out pretty clear. So we're looking at Tuesday mornings and we're also looking at Thursdays mid-afternoon. That is across the board. Your industry might be slightly different. Obviously, I know we've got a few people in here from construction. That might be very different from somebody who works at their desk. So I would ask you to go away, see if this rings true for you, test out a few different times, and see when you're getting the best responses, and then use that as your playbook moving forward. Okay, so we're going to talk about capitalizing on the moment here. So I know that as recruiters, you still spend a large proportion of your time in LinkedIn. LinkedIn does a great job of surfacing when your connections have work anniversaries coming up. And much like in our personal lives, when New Year's Eve rolls around, everyone celebrates, everyone looks back at the past year, starts planning for the next year. People are thinking, okay, what do I want to achieve next year? What did I achieve last year? It's the same thing when a work anniversary happens. People start to reflect on what they achieved in their past year. Are they still growing? Can they see themselves spending another year there? Have they stagnated? So they start to really question that. So what we want to do, or what is ideal, is to drop them a message within 48 hours of that work anniversary. If they are having thoughts, questions, queries about their current role, and if they're achieving enough, then this is a great time to dangle that carrot in front of them. A great opportunity. It's going to look a lot more attractive to somebody having these thoughts than somebody who's just got their head down in work mode, not really paying attention to what's going on around them. And then when reaching out to candidates, we ideally want to be as personal as possible. So we can use the 3 by 3 rule. So if we spend 3 minutes trying to find 3 unique hooks for candidates and then incorporate those into our outreach messages, it's going to show that you've done your research. It's going to pique their interest. They're going to want to read on. And you're more likely to get a response from candidates that know that you've put a bit of effort in and it's not just a generic spray and pray method. So things that we want to be looking for would include previous projects they've worked at, previous companies that they've worked in, if they've been on podcasts recently, have a look out for that. And also if they've written any blogs or if they've won any awards. All of this stuff is great insights to put into your outreach message to get people on the hook. So I'm sure some of you were probably on the session that we ran last month on writing outreach to get consistent replies. I believe that was actually run by Sandra herself. So please go back and have a watch of that. But we want to highlight a high conversion message framework. So when it comes to a subject line, we don't want to be typing in things like exciting opportunity, like generic things like that that every other recruiter is doing. We want to pique their interest. So we want to cause curiosity and we also want to include some context into that. So we could say something about your transition from Google to Amazon. What was the biggest challenge on that move? Something like that is going to make them click that message, read it, open it, and then hopefully come back to you once they've read the full message. But when we get into the body of the message, we want to be validating the work that they've done. So this could be the hook. Like, I saw you achieve this in your previous company, or you were in this team. That team achieved great things. Something along those lines is going to be a good hook. It's validating the work they've done. And then you can lead on to saying, instead of just sending a generic job description, like this is what you'll be doing day to day, cause more curiosity by including things like my client is currently facing this issue, your previous work at this company solved that. They would love to have somebody of your caliber on board to help them achieve that goal or overcome that challenge. And then at the end of this, we always want to have a low friction call to action. So we don't want to be asking for people's CVs. We don't want to be pushing for a call right away. You can lead with something like, is this worth exploring further, or is my timing slightly off? It leaves it really open. And call to actions like that get a much higher response rate than when you're trying to force somebody directly onto a call there and then. But I know this is more Sandra's wheelhouse. So, Sandra, do you have anything else to add on the messaging side of things?
Try to be as short as you can and right to the point and as personal as you can. Sometimes it helps to make segments of people that you're reaching out to that you can say something similar to. But in this case, this is more of a one-to-one kind of tactic. You're usually not having a huge campaign with a ton of passive candidates. So the extra time you put into making sure you really understand them and their pain points and being that specific so that they know you're really talking to them. You're not talking to 1,000 different people. That makes a big difference. And remember that your goal with your very first bit of outreach is to get a response from them. So you're not trying to get them to commit to changing jobs. You're trying to start a conversation. So anything that you can do to make them want to reply to you or make it sound like they're curious about what the next thing you're going to be able to tell them is, that will make a big difference for your outreach.
So now I'm just going to jump into Loxo and show you a few different tips and tricks on how we can uncover people in those golden windows. So you may come into Loxo and you may work in the grid view, but for the purpose of uncovering the recent activity of when you last had this person interviewing or submitted, we're going to want to click into the list view just up here. So once we click in the list view, you will see a recent activity filter here. So I could say I want to see people that have had a first interview or have been submitted, and I want to see people that had that within the golden window. Okay? So within the golden window, and then we are going to save that. This is going to surface people that have either had a first client interview or have been moved to submitted within these two dates. We know from research that these people are in that golden window. You've submitted them or they've had a first interview. So they are good candidates. They're candidates that you backed back then. I'm sure you would still back them now. So there's a couple of things you can do from here. You could either select all and put them into an outreach campaign, making sure to personalize that first initial message, making sure that's hyper personalized. Or you can go through, add them to a call list, give them a quick call, check in, see how they're getting on. And don't forget, if you're speaking to them on the phone and they say, actually, I am still really happy, I've got a promotion coming up in 2 weeks' time or a month's time, don't forget to then try to uncover those golden nuggets from them. They trust you, your trusted advisor. Ask those questions about who else they know in the market, who's been performing well. These people are actually working in the market, so they're going to be hearing stuff through the grapevine as much as you. What they're hearing may be different to what you're hearing. They may actually know slightly more about their niche, so they might give you a few golden nuggets that you weren't aware of, which you can then go and target, and that's going to set you above the recruiters that are just operating on knowledge that they know. So use this as a real knowledge grab from your existing candidates. And then if we're in Loxo Source, even if we are in the public database, but just for this purpose, I just want to show internal ones, we can then do a tenure search. So you just get a new account executive role on. You want to quickly do a Loxo search and get people into your pipeline that are in that golden window. The best thing to do is to use the tenure filter down here. So we can actually say, I just want to see people that have 3 to 5 years experience, and that is going to filter these people down. So anybody that's got 3 to 5 years experience is going to show up. And you'll see here, Dunton has got a readiness score, but others don't. But that doesn't mean that they're not ready. A well-timed message to these people is going to land really well. Yes. So now for your homework, I would highly advise people go away and execute on what I just showed you in Loxo. So jump into your Loxo, see what candidates, you may be shocked at how many candidates you actually submitted out 2 years ago, or how many candidates you had interviewing 2 years ago that you may have forgotten about. So do that search, see who you did send out that is sitting in that golden window, give them a call, send them a message, see what they're getting up to now. I can guarantee that you're going to have some really good conversations from that and hopefully get some submissions out the door. And then when you are compiling those messages, we want you to be sending personalized ones. So try the 3 by 3 rule. Find those free webhooks. So spend 3 minutes of time finding 3 unique webhooks that are going to hook people in, intrigue people, cause curiosity, and get them to read the entire email. all the way down to your call to action, which will be soft, but more likely to get responses. And then finally, we want to try the back channel BD connection. So if you are in a position where you are taking candidate references for your clients, open up those conversations. Be curious as to what their company is doing at the moment. Be curious as to what their network's doing. Do they know anybody going through a tough time? Do they know anybody that you need to connect with? All of this sort of stuff is incredibly useful, incredibly valuable, and I would highly recommend doing that. So thank you for the time. We're going to open up the floor now to questions. Sandra, have any come in yet?
Thank you so much for that, Alex. We have a few questions, and this is a great time if you have more and you haven't answered them yet, so put them into the Q&A. The first one is, how can you set specific times for outreach?
So when we are setting outreach campaigns, we're going to want to have this. So we would make the campaign. There's a couple of ways we can do that. We could set the delay to hours so that then the outreach starts at that specific time on that specific day. Or we could have this just as a generic 10-minute delay, just in case we add the wrong people into this. But when we're adding candidates into the campaign, so say I wanted to add Bugs Bunny, I would add him to a campaign, choose a campaign, and then you'll see this little timer down here. So we can then say, I want him to get a message at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Save that. So he's going to go into that process at 11 a.m. And if we've got a 10-minute delay, he'll start getting that first message at 10 minutes past 11 on the next day.
Okay, great. Nada is saying that Loxo doesn't allow you to personalize bulk email templates. I don't think that's quite the case. Am I correct? I believe you can personalize templates to some degree.
So if you have your outreach campaign set up, you've got your first stage, second stage, third stage. The first stage is the one that we want to be adding hyper personalization to. So when we're adding people to a campaign, so say we wanted to add Bugs Bunny, we would jump in, click the plus here to Loxo Outreach, pick a campaign, and then we're going to hit the personalize button here. That's going to bring up this, and then we can edit just for this candidate what we want to say. So you could have your template already in there. You could have a section for your hooks, and you can just add your hook in on a case by case basis for those individuals. And then they're going to enter that process. They're going to get a hyper personalized first email, and then they're going to get all the follow up emails as well.
Yeah, that's great. And this is something too where I mentioned this more in last month's webinar, but this is also something where you can segment your lists so that you have groups of like candidates, and then you can tailor your email campaigns for those specific subsections. So even if it's within one job, if you're targeting people from a specific company or a specific background, you can make it more personalized by making those smaller groups and targeting each of them directly.
Yeah.
Can you show us where notes are found in Loxo and how you search on them?
So intake notes, I'm assuming we are talking about intake notes here. So intake notes are fully searchable. So when you're screening Bugs Bunny, you may be typing out your intake notes here, saying all the things that he's great at, what he's looking for, etc., his key skills as well. So intake notes are fully searchable. So if we're then in Loxo Source doing a Boolean, a keyword, or a natural language search, we're also going to be looking at the intake notes here. So those people will be surfaced then. If we're talking about activity notes here, we would just search the event in this toolbar, or we could filter by note here. Where's note gone? Note isn't on this account, but note would normally be there for most of you. So yeah, a couple of different ways there that you can do that.
This is a pretty easy one. If you're in Loxo Source, how can you filter by only your internal database?
No worries. So let me just jump into Loxo Source. So you'll see just up here, we've got public or internal. So internal is then going to take me in. I've got 163 candidates in my internal database. It's worth noting that when we are searching public, you will get your internal database candidates show up as well. So anybody that you see when you're doing a public search with the little gold star next to them, they already exist in your network. But the easiest way to search your internal database is definitely in Loxo Source. Toggle to internal database, and then you have more features. You've got all the filters down the side, you've got your keyword and Boolean, and you've also got your natural language search as well.
Ashley asked, did you use the created date when you were filtering? I'm not getting many people for several months. It doesn't look right to her.
When I was filtering, I was doing it by recent activity. So I was saying I want to see people that have either a first interview or have been submitted. And then I was picking a time frame for that. So I might say anyone over a year ago for 2 years, and then save that. So now we're looking for people with either first interview or move to submitted within this time frame. So it wasn't created date, no.
If you are reaching out to several hundred people, is there a way to limit the amount sending out per day without sending them all at once, without having to set it up for each person individually?
So we do have email deliverability restrictions in place. So if we put 100 people into a campaign, 100 people aren't going out the door at exactly the same time. We're going to throttle those. So they're actually going out at 30-second intervals. That's to protect your email domain. We don't want your email domain having spikes of 100 sent this minute and then nothing for the rest of the day. So they do go out at 30-second intervals. But in terms of having full control over that, you would need to use your operating hours and have that set to a smaller operating window to limit that even more. So to adjust your operating hours, you would just go into general and then you could make that a smaller window. So then if people are going out at 30-second intervals, there's only a specific amount of time that they can go out, so then they will stop and they'll restart in the next window.
Okay, good. Louise is asking, how do you find closed assignments in order to check who is on the candidate list for a similar job search?
So what we're going to do there is we would jump into jobs. Oh, this one doesn't have any jobs in, but I should still be able to demonstrate. So we're going to jump into jobs and then we're going to go to filter here and then it's just job status. So we would say, I want to see all of the roles that aren't active. That's going to pull them up. And then you can search here. So say it was account executive roles that you wanted to see, like previous account executive roles, you would just type account executive in here with that filter on, and that's going to pull up all the account executive roles that you've closed in the past.
Okay, good. Someone is asking about the AI note taker recordings. Where are they stored and are they searchable?
So the AI note taker recordings are going to live underneath the candidate's record, just underneath meeting here. So this candidate has had some meetings, but they are not AI note taker meetings. If they were, you would see a little video snippet there that you can click on. That's going to open up the full screen where you'll be able to see the full transcript. You'll be able to see an overview. You'll actually be able to snip certain bits of that meeting as well. And within there, you can search the transcript for keywords to surface that part of the call.
Do you have an opinion about how many stages is best for a campaign? Someone heard 11 but found it's wearing candidates out.
Yeah, so I think when you actually look at the data on it, it is quite a high number of touch points before somebody responds to you. Sandra, you might know this better than I, but is it something along the lines of 8 touch points before you get a response?
I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. The average number is high, but this is another thing where you have to test for your own situation. If you're finding people are getting annoyed or worn out or it's too many, cut it back. Maybe it's not right for your company. Testing is the most important thing in any kind of marketing, including outreach. So you can go by the generic what works best in mass, but that's never going to tell you what works best for you. So you can
Mhm.
absolutely feel free to cut back that number or to try to make the individual messages, like tweak them. Can you make them more interesting? Can you add a curiosity gap that makes people want to respond and find out what you have to say? Or can you be more relevant? There's a lot of things you can tweak aside from the number. Feel free to tweak the number as well, Bob.
Yeah. And just on that point, when I was doing outreach campaigns in my previous job, about midway through, I would normally put a call to action that gave them a little bit of an easy out. If they really weren't interested in the role, I'd prefer to know that than to keep chasing them, which might then lead to them becoming annoyed with me. So about halfway through, I would normally drop something in there like, please let me know if this isn't right for you currently. And then that leaves the door open for the next role you get. You don't feel as bad going back after them again. So that is something else to have to think about. But yeah, it is a case by case basis.
Yeah, for sure. Those easy opt that like you think I don't want them to say they don't want to hear from me. But getting that response for one thing helps your deliverability. And for another thing, it preserves the relationship for something that is more on topic for them or more interesting to them at a later date.
100%.
Is there a way to search for past candidates who have made it to a specific milestone, like interviewing, but only for specific customers' jobs in your database?
Yes, so we've got the recent workflow stages here. So if we just wanted to see people that were submitted within a certain date range, we could do that. Sorry, Sandra, what was the second part of that question?
Only for specific companies' jobs, I believe.
So for that, what we would do is we would jump into jobs. We would click all statuses because we want to see people that had previously made it to those stages. So click all those stages, and then we would put the company name in here. And then you're going to be able to see all of your old jobs. We would click into candidates, and you'll be able to see all of the candidates that made it to the submitted stage for that company.
Austin is asking if you can A/B test emails after the first outreach. So he can see how to do it for the first message, but follow-up messages don't seem to allow for A/B testing.
Okay. Yeah, so the A/B testing is restricted to the first email in this instance. We would highly recommend using it on the first email to see what's landing best. But yeah, for the follow-ups, let me just double check that actually. I don't want to be saying the wrong thing. Uh, at the stage. This is because I'm in a test account that's not working. If you can, Austin, if you can send your email address, I will follow up with you on this after.
Alex, do you want to give them yours?
Yes, yeah. So my email address is arose, all one word, at loxo.co.
Can you use passive sourcing to fill client pipeline and business development?
So by that, are we asking, can you just repeat that again, Sandra?
Can you use passive sourcing to fill, sorry, I lost the question.
Okay.
Give me just a second. To fill client pipeline and business development.
Yeah, so I think I understand what you're asking here. So if we target passive senior people, then we can definitely do a bit of a manager flip on them. So we could check in, hi, I had you submitted 2 years ago. They are in the golden window, but they are now a hiring manager. We've got that relationship, so we then could do a manager flip and use that for business development purposes. I'm not 100% sure if that's what you were asking there.
Jacob, I'm just going to answer this one for you quickly. Jacob asked what is the best way to ask for new features. The best way to ask for feature requests in Loxo is to go into our help, which Alex has hopefully
Yeah,
highlighted, that question mark help icon at the bottom left of your Loxo platform, and click Start a Conversation. And that will bring up Artemis, our AI help bot. And you can just say you want to make a feature request and then here's your idea. And Artemis will then ask you any follow-up questions to make it easy to submit it to our product team. So we highly
yeah,
encourage everyone do that when you see things you'd like to have added to Loxo.
yeah. And just so everyone's aware of this, we do have in the help, we have a new section here where you can see upcoming and recently released features. So if you are thinking, I'd love this to be part of Loxo, check the news first to see if this is something that's actually coming soon. If not, you can go in and make that feature request, but I would check here before doing that.
That megaphone symbol down at the bottom, if there's new news you haven't seen, we'll get that little red dot on it. So I highly recommend using that. That's a really easy place to find out about things that are coming up soon.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are just about at time now. If your questions aren't answered, please do reach out to support. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I really appreciate you spending time with us, and I hope this was helpful. I appreciate you all, and I hope I'll see you again next month. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Cheers.